Welcome to Third Shot Podcast. If you're looking to catch up on older episodes, you can go to Spotify or our website, thirdshotpodcast.com. And as always, we encourage you all to follow us on our social media, Instagram and Facebook. You can find us at Third Shot Podcast. And on X, you can find us at Third Shot Pod. You can also watch us on YouTube at Third Shot Podcast. We're everywhere.
We are.
We are.
Uncle Greg and Russ, you two have your shots ready.
Yes, I do.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh,
Man, Celsius is so good.
What flavor?
Actually, I don't even know which one I had there. That was like an apple flavor. I already because I already finished most of the can because Celsius is so good. I'm trying to get him as a sponsor, Bridgie. I'm really working on it.
Yeah. How many times do we need to say their name in our
I know.
episodes to get
I know.
them?
Well, I'm gonna send them this episode on LinkedIn, so we'll
yes.
make this happen. They also get a plug on our DIY podcast, so there you go.
Yeah. Can you hold up the Celsius can, clip it, send it to them?
Exactly. I'll have a bunch of next episode. It'll just be filled with Celsius cans behind me.
Yeah.
That's all you'll see. That'll be my backdrop.
And then you have to have like bloodshot eyes because you have not slept in 2 weeks.
You know what's interesting about Celsius though is actually, and not to turn this into an actual commercial, but I don't feel like if I have like too much coffee, you get kind of jittery.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you have a Celsius, you're kind of good. Like it maintains enough, it regulates enough energy for me, gets me going, gets me upbeat, and then like I don't have problems sleeping at night. They really work out well.
And the best part is that you got hooked on them at a pickleball tournament.
I did.
That's right.
Whoever filled up that ice chest that we had there, that's who got me hooked on these.
Yeah.
Yep.
They are
Our
very good.
big time fan, my mom.
Okay. There you go.
Our number one fan.
Yeah.
Nice.
The birthday girl.
Good job,
herself.
Bridgie mom.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, Uncle, you've got some news to share. I think ever since that one gig you got, this seems like it's going to turn into something for you.
What? Oh, the doing the commentating?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now you're a scorekeeper. Like these guest appearances, you should start putting a price tag on them.
Well, I got paid to scorekeep.
Oh,
So
heck
really?
yeah.
This was a paying gig. Yeah, there was the Thrive City pickleball tournament over at the Chase Center in San Francisco. And it was, it's gorgeous because the Chase Center is where the Warriors play and it's fairly new. I think Russ, 2 or 3 years old now?
I think it goes back to 2019. I think it opened in
Oh,
2019.
really? Okay, so it's been around longer. And out in the courtyard in front is this open area. They have restaurants out there and they set up a bunch of pickleball courts. And then down below the stadium, kind of right between the stadium and the bay, is like some artwork and some more open area, walkway area. And they set up more courts down there. And they needed scorekeepers for their big tournament that they had over the weekend. And a friend of mine contacted me because he knows, hey, Greg, I know you love pickleball and you know the game, you know how to scorekeep and all that. But they need help, they're paying and all this kind of stuff. And I go, sure. So I called a couple of buddies and 3 of us landed up doing it. And it was fun. It was a lot of fun just meeting a lot of people and pickleballers. And I wore my Uncle Greg sweatshirt and, people go, oh, Uncle Greg, right? That whole thing was fun. And you really have an appreciation for how difficult reffing pickleball is.
Oh, really?
Yes. And I mean, it wasn't the most ideal conditions to ref because I had the score keep also. So they had me sitting at a table with the score thing where you flip the number, you're flipping the score and you're kind of keeping track of everything. So I think if you really want to, ref, you need to be standing on the court, right? You need to be standing right there at center court and watching the whole thing. When you're sitting and you're doing doubles, people get in front of you all the time. Like the player closest to you will block from, the baseline on the other side or the sideline on the other side of the court. So that was challenging, and I'm going, don't ask me. Don't dispute this call because I did not see it. And here's the other thing that I found fascinating, and Bridgie, you're going to appreciate this because we experienced this. In fact, the tournament that you were at, Russ, we experienced this. When you're playing pickleball, you just don't see how many times people step into the kitchen accidentally or maybe
Mm.
purposely, and because you're concentrating on the ball, it's coming at you really
Right.
fast. You don't want to get doinked on the head or just smacked in the face. So you're not looking at their feet. Well, when you're reffing, you're looking at their feet, and you notice how many times people
Yeah.
to the kitchen when they're not supposed to be. I had this one guy that was stepping over the line when he was serving all the time, and I was going, if the other team calls it, the way the rules were, they instructed us that if the team disputes it, then make the call. But if they don't dispute it, don't jump in on it, right? So I didn't say anything, but I'm watching like almost every match, people are fouling that nobody's calling.
Mm.
That is tough to call while you're playing because, like you said, it happened to us during a tournament where after the match, I think it was a spectator who was watching the whole time came up to me and uncle and was like, "Just so you know, like the guy who was scoring all the points pretty much kept crossing into the kitchen," and we're like, "We had no idea." But
Yeah.
that's such a tough call to make, even on the serve too, because they're even farther away, so it's really hard to tell at that point.
Yeah, we had multiple people come up to us after that match because I think that was the championship match, and we
Yeah.
and we barely lost. I think it went into extra points or whatever, right? We lost by 2, but like multiple people came and said, you stepped into the kitchen a bunch of times on you. I'm like, ah,
Where were you
Too
during
bad
the
they didn't.
game?
Yeah, too bad they didn't shout it out like, "Hey, that guy's cheating."
Yeah, exactly. What good is it afterwards to know?
Yeah, dang.
Here we go. We
Russ,
got
have either one of you ever
there, there you
like,
go,
oh
guys.
hey, yep, there I am
For the
for all our
YouTube
YouTube.
viewers.
Yeah, there's me wearing my sweatshirt scoring.
Look out.
Have you ever reffed or umpired or either one of you, because both of you involved in organized sports before?
No.
I
I just
have.
Yeah.
really
Yeah, so in
daring.
college, that's what my job was at the rec center was I was a sports official for intramurals. And boy, does it put you on the spot for some quick decision making. It's a
Yeah.
tough job for
But
sure.
So what
yeah.
sport were you judging or
Oh,
umpiring or whatever?
I've done softball, soccer, basketball, flag football,
Oh wow.
um, volleyball. Yeah. Not
Which
pickleball yet though.
which was the toughest for you?
I think basketball because I had never played growing up, nor did I really watch it. Like I get the general idea of it, but like what constitutes a foul was really hard for me to grasp because I grew up playing soccer, and so like there's a lot more contact that's legal in soccer than in basketball. And so when people were getting like shoulder nudged and stuff, like in soccer, that's fine. So I wasn't really calling anything, and then they would like start yelling at me saying like that's a foul, you can't be like bodying us up like that. So I had a lot of studying to do, and so I had some pretty good mentors to kind of teach me, and finally learned what an actual foul was in basketball.
What an actual foul,
Right.
or what you should call as a foul,
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
right?
Yeah, there was one game where there was like this is like my kids playing soccer. I don't remember which kid it was that was playing at this game, but I remember like the whatever the ref, the official was like, I don't know, 12, 13, and the parents are just yelling at him. I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you being so mean to this? Like, it's a kid. What are you
Yeah, at a
doing?
kid's game even
Yeah,
too.
exactly. Exactly. I don't know. That's a lot of pressure.
Well, I
Yeah.
gotta tell
Do
you,
that.
I used to umpire like beer league softball league.
Okay.
Oh, that's bad because all these guys are big, brawny, drunk softball players
Yeah.
that think they should be in a major leagues, and they just get on the ref or get on the umpires like crazy.
I can only
Oh yeah.
imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did a kickball league one time, and I remember some of the umpires just kind of getting it from the other teams a few times.
Yeah.
And it's just rec. We're supposed to be having
Yeah.
fun.
No, that was
Exactly.
high level kickball, Bridgie.
That's a professional. And we won, by the way.
We did. We were the champs. Do you remember the time that we played against a guy that played professional soccer? And
Yes.
somebody brought him as a ringer, and how hard he could kick the ball?
Yes, and he was so fast. He would run from I think left field to right field and make a catch. He was
Wow.
incredible.
It was like the Bad News Bears where there's this one really good outfielder and he was catching everything, right? That's what it was like playing against this guy. And
Wow.
we could back up as far as we wanted to back up and he would still kick it over our heads. The guy was
Yeah,
incredible.
Jeez.
he was good.
There is a big difference between professional athletes and rec athletes.
Big time. And you can see it when they start playing.
Yeah,
Yep. And
totally.
speaking of a professional athlete, we have a professional pickleball player today on our show. So we are very excited to have Patrick Kawka come and join us. And while we bring him in, please, wanted to thank everybody because you guys are fantastic and supporting the show. Going to our social media accounts on Instagram and Facebook, which is Third Shot Podcast, on our website, which is thirdshotpodcast.com, and on X, Third Shot Pod. YouTube has been really picking up steam, so thank you for all watching. You would have seen my quick little picture of me scorekeeping and trying to stay warm out there on the bay. So thank you for watching the video and watching the podcast. And on that note, let's bring in Patrick.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be on finally.
Finally, I know we've been talking about it forever.
Yeah, and it's
We
so good
have.
to finally meet you. For our listeners, you and I have a common friend. His name is Calvin, and I know Calvin because at UNLV is where we met at the UNLV Rec Center, where we both worked at one point. And then through social media and just the small world of pickleball, we came across one another and we finally get to meet. So I'm going to do a little toast to us finally getting to meet and
Oh,
hearing
there we
your
go.
pickleball story.
And
Toast.
here's to Calvin for
For bringing it
just a
all
great
together.
guy. I mean, Calvin is just
Calvin's
the
the
best,
man.
right?
Calvin's the man. Calvin's my best friend. So, beyond bringing me to amazing people like yourselves, he's also keeping me alive on the court through all my injuries. And man, I couldn't say enough good things about him. He's always there for me in every situation in life now. So, Calvin's the man.
Calvin actually was the person that introduced me to that whole Hawaiian crew down in Vegas over at
Yeah.
Sunset.
Yeah, that's the group. I mean, that's they kind of own the Sunset Park pickleball courts. That group. I mean, they're like, if you want to go play pickleball, if they're not there, then probably nobody's playing. So that's the
Yeah.
group to be in with.
That's
Yeah,
awesome. How did you
he's
and
definitely
Calvin
got
meet?
So Calvin and I met when it was actually the first time I ever played pickleball. So our mutual friend Cheryl Bond, who was one of the few different reasons or kind of reasons I got into pickleball, she kind of pushed me into it, and she invited me to this event where I could kind of give pickleball a shot for the first time. So I went out and played, and I think Calvin was in the event, and he was beating up on me already, so that was my first experience in pickleball, and Calvin's smacking balls at me. And I think according to him, there's only one situation where I think he hit an overhead, and I hit a drive off of his overhead, and he's like,
Oh.
that's not how that's supposed to go. And that's the only thing he says is like he noticed some greatness right away. But that's how I met Calvin. We played against each other there, and then just kind of started building our friendship as we started to practice and then find we have a lot of common interests off the pickleball court as well. So we're camping, we go camping together, we're we're into different car stuff and detailing. And I mean, literally, he's like the Asian version of me. So or I guess, I'm the white version of him, whatever you want to say.
Well, before you got into pickleball, you had a pretty storied sports career. You've actually played a couple of different high level sports. Tell everybody a little bit about that.
Yeah, so grew up tennis player, as many of us other pickleball players now, but grew up since I started when I was like a year and a half old, just racket in the hand, drilling, training, and yeah, went on to play. So I was a top ranked junior in the country, top 20 in the country. Played college tennis, top 20 NCAA in tennis, and then decided to give it a shot on the pro tour. Um, Everything was going pretty well on tour. I got to about 600 in the world. And then you took a look at the credit cards and the bank statements, and the numbers didn't add up after a while. So I had to cut the pro tennis career short and got into the coaching side of things. And so I was privileged enough to coach some top juniors, number one ranked juniors in the country, and then went on to coach on the ATP and mostly on the WTA tour. Some, top 10 in the world ranked women's doubles players, and then eventually came back to Vegas and had a little tennis academy with a buddy of mine, and he introduced me to a sport called padel, or in the U.S., a lot of people like to say padel, but it's really just paddle. So ended up getting pretty involved in paddle. Played, on the U.S. tour for a couple years. Got to about number 3 in the country, and then eventually, the wife primarily said, it's time to commit to something else. If you're going to stay in sports, the only sport you're allowed to go into is pickleball. So between the wife and the many others who for years and years were pushing me, like Tyler Loong and Spencer Smith and some of my college tennis buddies, for years were trying to convince me to play pickleball. But when the wife says it's time to play pickleball, can't argue there. So the wife said it, and Cheryl Bond kind of really pushed me into it, and so that was the final straw where November 2022 was November 1st. I made it like an official calendar. It's like, all right, November 1st, I'm gonna give up the paddle and go into pickleball. So
That's great.
that's
Well,
kind
I
of
love that you have an anniversary date now too.
right. Yeah, no, I'm pretty particular on the date. I think one of my pet peeves is, a lot of players like to say, they've only been playing for a week and a half and they're, gaining medals on tour. So, I'm picky on knowing exactly when things happen. So I'll remember that date for sure.
Well, with a background in both tennis and paddle, what was the transition like for you into pickleball? Did you find that there were some challenges, or was it pretty seamless for you?
Um, I guess to answer that, it'd be probably more perspective based. What some would call seamless, others wouldn't. But for me, definitely had a lot of challenges. A good portion of the game of pickleball is a lot slower than anything I've played before. Anything up in the kitchen and resetting, it's just not really something that exists in either the other two racket sports. So that was definitely and still is a big challenge. Is kind of knowing when to press or when to play offense and when to play defense, which seems a little bit more straightforward, at least to me, in tennis and paddle. It's if you're on top of the net, you play offense. If you're back, you play defense. And in pickleball, it's a little bit more complex than that, right? Where I could be playing defense from anywhere in the court just with the way the game's played. So That's something I think I'm just finally, discovering and coming into my own, and really developing the defensive side of the game. So that was definitely, I would say, the biggest challenge. And besides that, just kind of, I would say, the feeling of the ball. It's a hard plastic ball on a hard surface, where both tennis and paddle are using, essentially a tennis ball. A paddle tennis ball is a little bit smaller, minutely, and a little bit more, or less compression. But for all intents and purposes, most people wouldn't be able to tell the difference. So just with that ball, I feel like it's a little easier to feel it out, and really you get more of a responsiveness, off the paddle or the racket with a ball like that. And in pickleball, with the hard plastic balls we use, sometimes you'll hit something that feels unbelievable and it flies straight into the back fence, and then you'll hit something that feels awful, and it's just a ripping winner, moving through your, and it's just so hard to comprehend, because you don't get that feel off the paddle every time. So that's honestly something I've been challenged to, in my career now, is developing pickleball paddles and different things for companies, is trying to attain that feeling that I got from tennis and paddle, of knowing what the ball is going to do off the face. So those are kind of some of the challenges I've faced, personally, in pickleball, I'd say.
Well, I come from a golf background, and it's all about feedback, right? And golf is like, how does the contact feel? Like, do you know if it's going right to left, left to right, based on how it feels right off the club? And knowing where the club head is at in your backswing and downswing, it's all about feedback. And that's a big thing that golf club companies are spending billions of dollars of research trying to figure out how to give the players that feel that they're looking for. And I know you're really involved in trying to kind of evolve the pickleball paddle. Tell us a little bit about the research that you do, and how you work on design.
Yeah, so I'm lucky enough to be involved, and have been in the past with companies like Thrive, and now with ProXR. Uh, it's something I absolutely love to do, um, since I was, a kid. Obviously, not in regards to sports directly, but I've always been inclined to, um, I would say, judge and kind of debate with people on design of products, whether it's electronics or cars, or different things that I was interested in. And so now I'm lucky enough to be able to do that in a sport that I love. So um, you know I can't lie and say that I have a master's degree in engineering or anything like that. I probably, knowing that now, I wish I did go into that, because it's something I really love. But when you're 17 years old in college and you're playing tennis, school doesn't mean anything. So, you know, back then I wasn't as mentally developed. But no, I think, um, you know, for me, as you mentioned, is the research, right? So obviously there's a ton of research to be done, on the internet, and reading, and whether it's forums or studies or different scientific posts, are also very important. But a lot of that information can be quite skewed. And so, for example, something that I'm very particular on is spin off the face of a paddle. Um, so I guess, to give you a quick synopsis on my, like, theory behind pickleball paddle design, is um, I like to consider a lot of the pickleball players are coming from a similar type background as me, being tennis or some other form of a racket sport. And so they're looking for certain things to receive, or to that feedback, like you mentioned, off of a pickleball paddle. And one of the primary things is spin. I think that's a huge part of the game. And so, coming from tennis, spin is everything, and in paddle, it's very similar. So that was something I felt like was always lacking in pickleball when I started. Now it's come a long way. I think a lot of the companies caught on to that, theory, and are working on it a lot. But um, there's been a lot of studies that go and say, for instance, they measure the coefficient of friction on a surface, right? And so it doesn't always equate to real life spin, when
Why
you're
is that?
using a paddle. So basically, a long story short on that is they're going to measure a surface such as this, and
Mhm.
they're going to say that if I have, grit is measured on a stair, let's say it's supposed to be, around 40. But if I put it at 100, they're going to say for 90% of the time, or 9 out of 10 instances, when you make contact with the ball, having higher grit doesn't affect spin, because the grit only affects the ball, or the coefficient of friction, at a certain angle, right? Which you're not using all the time. Most of the time you're hitting the ball straight on, which is true. However, in a real life situation, I'm not expecting my paddle to affect the ball every single time I hit it. I need that coefficient of friction, that 1 out of 10 times when I am hitting the ball, within an extreme angle. So, the numbers say something, but it's not necessarily realistic. That slim instance, which might be an important scenario or situation where you're reaching for a flick and you're barely making contact with the ball, well, that's where I need that grit to really help me out. Even if it is only 1 out of 10 times, it could be an important situation. So, um, and it's not, always direct. There's so many factors when it comes to spin. How long the ball sits on the face of the paddle, the rate of deflection. If you make a really stiff surface with crazy amount of grit, it's not going to spin the ball as well as a softer surface with less grit, just because the ball doesn't sit on the face as long. So I could go crazy with it, but there's a lot of different things that go into, and that's just spin. And then we're looking at power, reliability, durability. There's so many different factors. So I just find it interesting, and kind of trying to push that technology, where now we're kind of in a point in the sport where the technology is gonna it already has been explosive, but right now, we're seeing what all these companies can come up with, right?
Yeah, we've seen a lot of development. And you said you don't have a background in engineering, but I think you can fool anybody with your experience and all of the research you've done, because that's incredible, and you can explain it in such a way that even someone like us can understand it.
Well, I appreciate it. I think I've probably read enough engineering paperwork at this point to have maybe 1 semester of an engineering degree, but
Give
that's my
this man
limit.
his associates.
Well,
Yeah.
hey, Bridget, you got to work on getting pickleball engineering in UNLV curriculum. Somehow we
Yeah,
got to
right.
get that in, and then
I
all
would
the top
I'd be the
players will
first
be
one
going to
signed up.
UNLV, right?
Yeah. Yes. Can we get some players here in Vegas? That would be
Oh, you
awesome.
got some players in Vegas.
Yeah,
We
we
do.
need to
We
get
do.
it
We have
associated with the university, though. That'll be our goal, Patrick. You and I, we can do that.
Let's go. I'm ready. I'd love to be a part of that.
Speaking of players, earlier this year you got to play with Augie, and I just think this year has been incredible. He's just been making a meteoric rise. You just medaled in the APP with Will Howes,
Yeah.
and congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Like, what stands out for you? You've had some amazing partners, both men's and women's partners, over the 2 years you've been playing professionally. Like, what stands out? What's been kind of your favorite matches? Who do you enjoy playing with? Why do you enjoy playing with it? Because, you guys are changing all the time.
Yeah, I mean, going back to Augie, he's definitely in my, top 3 list of partners I've ever played with, not just because of his level, but especially because of his personality. I mean, he's one of my best friends on tour. We're really close. We text, weekly about results. He watches anytime I'm doing well, he's the first one to text me, good job, keep killing it. Um, and at this point, I'm just trying to keep up with the guy because he's dominating this game. But Augie's one of my favorite, partners just because I'll hit a terrible shot. I'll float an absolute floater. Opponents crush an overhead, win the point, and Augie will come up to me and he'll be like, "Sorry, I should have been there." It's always his fault, no matter what happens. And not necessarily that he actually believes that, but he knows that it's not going to do me any good, for him to complain about, my mistakes. So that's what it's like playing with the guy. I mean, no matter what you do, he gives you all of, the positive credit and takes all of the negative every time. And I think that's important. I don't know if anyone is going to do it to that level or that extreme, but it's important to have that positivity with a partner. And obviously, I've had some unbelievable experiences. I got to play a bunch with Rafa, and we had some great runs. And then just a couple weeks ago with Will, basically carrying me to an APP final. I was just kind of hiding in the corner on the right side, with my knee injury, and I couldn't really tell him the extent of the pain I was feeling. So I was kind of just like, keeping him on the left every chance I could get. I was like, "Hey, you stay over there." Even if we'd lose a few points, he wanted to switch. I was like, "No, you're doing fine. Just stay over there because I can't move if I go to the other side." So I kept it under wraps, and he did an unbelievable job. And we had a great run there. Wish we could have taken it all the way, but freaking 2 of the nicest guys in the game had to take us out in the finals. So
Yeah.
Darn Eric Lang and Purple Jesus. If there's anybody that's going to take us out, I'm happy to have it be those 2 guys. I love those guys. So
Well, it's funny it was those 2 guys because when you and I got together, it was over in Alameda, and you're doing the exhibition, and you were playing against those 2 guys, and
Yeah.
they're pretty darn good together, aren't they?
They are. And obviously their experience, as partners at this point, having played so much together, versus Will and I's first time ever playing, I'm sure that plays a role. And ironically, like you said, Greg, is we had that exhibition, and not only that, we went out to lunch
Yeah.
together after with those guys as well. So it's just, that's the world of pickleball. We're all basically so tight knit and close that you always end up playing friends. It's the inevitable in this game. So
Yeah, well, I've got to switch gears a little bit because I've been dying to find out a little bit more about what it's like to be on tour because you're currently playing with the Bay Area Breakers on the MLP tour. So tell us what it's like.
So currently, actually, I'm not playing with the Breakers anymore, but MLP was a lot of fun. I loved playing that format. Hopefully can get back to it and get picked up by another team. But no, that's probably my favorite format I've played in pickleball thus far. It's great. I love the team environment coming from college tennis. I mean, that's what I live for. It's I love, hopefully Greg got to see a little bit of it in the exhibition, but I love playing in front of a crowd. I mean, I feel like I come alive in that situation. So MLP was, I mean, it's like spot on what I'm looking for. But I mean, shoot, life on tour. I guess number one word I have for you is hectic. I'm in a different. This has been, with my knee injury recently, and I've had probably the longest stretch of time I've been at home since I started playing. So I was home for about a month, got to go to APP Newport, and now I've got another about month at home before my next event. So um, it's uh, interesting because it's nice being home, but it almost feels strange as well because I'm itching to get out. I haven't been home for this long in a while. I feel stuck a little bit, but no, I mean it's very hectic. You travel a lot. Luckily enough for me, I get to do that most of the time with the wife. Having done this format of travel for tennis and paddle before alone for the most part, I know what that's like. And if I had to do that alone all the time, I don't think I'd be able to do it. I think that's one of the biggest challenges in professional sports, such as these individual sports, right? Like tennis or golf, or if you don't have a team around you, if you keep winning, it probably won't matter as much. But when you go through some tough losses, which is inevitable, everyone does, doing it alone is very, very challenging, mentally especially. So, getting to have my wife and my dog sometimes gets to come along. We're actually looking into purchasing a trailer or an RV here soon, just for how often we're on the road, and we'll be able to bring our dog and essentially our home with us wherever we go. So that's kind of what we're looking at, just because of just being on the road and giving me the ability to maybe access some of these pickleball hubs of pros. So that's how you get better in this game, is training with the best. And so I spend a lot of time in Arizona, and so having an RV and being able to go out there whenever we want, get a couple weeks of training, would be phenomenal. So that's kind of the game plan. But I don't know what else. What else is there about life on tour?
Like, do
Obviously,
you
a
like
privilege.
when we went to lunch together, like the other team came, right? The SoCal
Yeah.
Hard Eights came out with us. Is that typically what happens when you're playing an event, whether it's an APP or PPA? Like a whole bunch of you guys just hang out for dinner that night, or what have you?
So I do find that pretty common with, I consider myself an inaugural, Arizona pickleball member. I spend so much time out there, and so that's my pickleball family, is anybody out there in Arizona. Obviously, the people here locally in Vegas as well, but um, the guys I see mostly on tour are from Arizona, and that's at every tournament. If we're not staying together, we're watching, we're supporting, we're playing together, we're going to eat together. So Augie, Caden, Danny Jensen, Ryan Eveloff, Rio Newcomb. I mean, it's Jackson Ayotte. I mean, Michael Lloyd, when he used to live out there, now he's in Texas. I mean, that's my family. So we go to all our meals together. We were in Atlanta, we're eating together. And obviously some of the girls, Angie and Alex Walker and Audrey, and all of those people. That's my group. So
That sounds like so much fun.
it's a lot more fun to do it our way. I don't know. I've heard some mixed stories about other players. They're more solo, and you know, maybe that's what it takes to be, the absolute best. But I think the way we're doing it is a lot more enjoyable. And I guess Augie's kind of our living proof at the moment that you can do it our way and still be at the top of the game. So we're all just trying to catch up to our boy Augie. But I think, it's a privilege to have all these friends and the camaraderie we do, while we're out on the road, because like I said, otherwise it would be kind of boring and lonely. So
Yeah, makes sense. I'm glad you have that family. Like
Yeah.
I
oh,
said,
it's
from an
amazing.
outsider looking in, and obviously I don't got to travel like that, but for business, I used to have to travel all the time, and I don't anymore. And I love being home. But, I totally relate to when you're traveling all the time, it just gets lonely. Like, if you don't have that
Yeah.
support group, it's not, it's kind of fun for a while. You get to see some new cities and all that, but then you go back to a hotel room by yourself. It's like,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, and I think that's, I guess, one of the misconceptions people probably, don't recognize is that obviously we appreciate the privilege of the places we get to go and see, but there isn't as much free time as people might think, right? If we get to a place, like, we're there. I mean, it's technically work. We're there to win. We're there to compete. So would we love to go out and walk, downtown of every city and go to some bars or whatever it is people want to do? Sure. But, when you've got to get to the site at 7 in the morning, if you're doing well, you're probably there from 7 a.m. till, 4 or 5 in the afternoon. It's, what do you want to do at 5 in the afternoon? Are you really going to go out and walk around? I mean, you're exhausted. So you're going to go eat dinner, or you're going to, stretch, do whatever recovery you have, and go to bed, because you got to be up at, 5 in the morning again the next day. So there isn't that much time. And, I'd say for the most of us on tour that aren't, to the point where we're surviving simply off of pickleball, I've got essentially 3 other jobs on top of playing pickleball that keep me plenty busy. So it's like, when I get back to the hotel, it's like, maybe I need to be, working remote. I've got stuff to do for ProXR. I've got stuff I'm a realtor back home. I have a cleaning company. I'm sending out invoices. So, there's a lot going on, and, there's as much free time as a lot of people may think to get to party, essentially, right?
Well, it does sound like you have a lot to balance, and you are doing so much in the pickleball world with going out and representing. And also, you had just mentioned that you have kind of a position with Pro XR. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I'm the director of paddle strategy. So that's my role in ProXR. I can't really divulge too much of what we're getting into in the paddle space, but essentially we are getting into the paddle space, in a few different directions, and so that's my role primarily. Um, and then I also play a significant role as well on the pickleball side of things, and in product development. Whether, again, we're kind of knee deep in a lot of different products relating to pickleball, not just paddles. A lot of that is probably going to be coming out soon, but there's a lot of things that are in motion with ProXR, and they also, that is in accordance with Paddle Tech as well, because ProXR did purchase Paddle Tech. So we are working both companies together as a team. Essentially, they're still separate, doing 2 different things, but Paddle Tech helps ProXR as much as ProXR helps Paddle Tech. It's a joint venture, and I get to be involved on the pickleball side of things now as well, and it's what I love, and paddle development, whether, I mean, every detail, lead tape, grips, bags. It doesn't, whatever it is that we're going to get into, I get to have my hands on, and I appreciate that they trust me enough to listen to my opinion on the stuff. So that's, I mean, what a privilege for me. I get to do what I love, and what I'm passionate about. And one of, I guess, the annoying things about me that my wife points out is my OCD on a lot of stuff. I'm very particular, which I'm sure can be quite annoying. If for instance, She gave me a piece of paper here with some notes. She folded it. It wasn't perfectly in half. It bothered me. I had to refold it so it was perfectly in half. It's just some of the little, I don't know why, but that's just how I am at times. But the
Well, it
benefit
probably
of
helps
that,
you be good at what you do. Like you're a
exactly.
perfectionist in a sense, right? It makes
So
you
spot on. And so that's, something I didn't realize really until, later on in life. But I've always been that way on certain things. So how I grip my tennis rackets now translates to how I grip my pickleball paddles. I mean, I've done a quick video, I think, on Instagram on how I do it, but I'm like very particular. It's very neat, like everything, because I'll feel the difference. And so, I'm particular on the design of paddles because I think, all of our paddles should be done in uniform. There shouldn't be one that's one way and another one that's different. I think that is important. And so I notice differences in swing weight. I can feel. So that's when you were asking me earlier in terms of research and how I go through paddle design. This particularness is kind of what pays dividends for me, where I can grab a paddle and I can sometimes, without hitting a ball, I can tell an instant differences in the grip, differences in the weight and the sweet spot. I need to only hit, a few balls and I can tell you everything about it. And so that's, annoying for me because I'll be playing two of the same paddles on court and I'll be, mentally fighting myself not to be bothered by them playing slightly different. But on the development side, it's fantastic because I can tell instantly, between core crush, how much core crush, delamination, where is it happening, swing weight, sweet spot. I mean, all of those things, I can feel it out pretty quick. So, I'm no machine, but
I think you're pretty
I do
close.
have a little bit of
I think
Yeah.
you're pretty close. You're like a
Yeah,
human
I don't know.
pickleball paddle meter. I mean, you can get like every rating just by him picking it up and hitting a couple balls. It's amazing. Like Bridgie, when we were together, he said, "Hey, Uncle, like pick up this paddle. Do you notice anything weird about it?" Right? I'm like, no, it feels like a regular paddle. And he goes, "All right, now did I tell you? One side's flat when you hold it this way, and the other side when you turn it over, it's not. It's not
I
flat.
forgot I
It's
did that
rounded."
with you. I forgot I did that with you.
That's
That's
Yeah,
hilarious.
and
hilarious.
I'm going, "You're right." And if I knew that, after you told me, there's no way I could play that paddle because I
Right?
would
Because
feel,
now
I
you're
would, I
thinking
would
about it.
totally feel that all the time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I can
So
totally see what you're saying.
I just notice it right away for whatever reason. I wish I wouldn't because then, it'd be so much easier, but I grab it, I feel it, and it's a very slight difference, but it only matters it's kind of like one of those things, or once you see it or once you hear it, you can't unhear it or unsee
Yeah.
it. And so that's how it is. I mean, I feel it, there's a difference. Um, and, it bothers me because I'm also not the guy that's going to play with the same side of the paddle,
Right.
every single time. So then that would be different. You'd get used to it. But because I turn it in my hand, then I need it to be identical on both sides, and it's not. So
Yeah.
I don't
It
know
was
why
so
I'm that
much.
way, but
It was so much fun just hanging out with you and talking and just talking pickleball. And Brisha, what I forgot to tell you is we went out to lunch and we're all foodies, right? All of us are foodies. Russ, you, we're all foodies. And we were talking about our favorite restaurants in Las Vegas.
Uh-huh.
And we definitely gotta get together and do some food. And we were talking about opening up a noodle shop. We're gonna do
Yes.
a fresh noodle shop. We already figured out the name.
What's it called?
okay. What's the name?
Slap that noodle.
Oh,
Because
is that's the one we were talking about.
that's
That's
what we're
right.
talking about. Because
Yeah, yeah,
how
yeah.
the fresh noodle places, they're spinning it and they're slapping it on the
Yes.
table and they're spinning it more and they're slapping on the table. And I would go, Patrick, we're calling it slap that noodle.
Yes, you have to. Oh my
Yes.
gosh. Y'all are onto
We
something.
man, yeah. I mean, like you said, I'm a huge foodie, and people give different definitions to the word foodie, but I think, you and I are on the same page where I've been out with people that call themselves foodies, but they're foodies just to eat at fancy restaurants, and that's not really our type of foodie. I mean, I'd rather go in some, shack, some hole in the wall spot, and if the food is fire, that's all that's a better ambiance to me. I mean,
Exactly.
it's my wife's Mexican, so if you ask her, I mean, it's almost factual information. Anytime you go to a Mexican restaurant that's in a nice neighborhood or, really nicely built restaurant, the food's going to be terrible. It's awful every time. But if you go to like we have here, the east side of Vegas, and you just have like some taco stand, the guys
Yep.
chopping up, meat like on the sidewalk. It nothing tastes better. I don't know what it is, but it's more authentic that way. And so that's the type of foodies I think you and I are, Greg. And so that we definitely bonded over that, just food quality over anything.
That's
Always.
right. So when I come down, the three of us, we got to go check out some hole in the walls and get some quality food.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, we got to keep that name on lock though, because someone's already going to be watching this podcast.
We have it in recording. It's our idea. It's our name. Our
That's true.
Nobody can steal
we got to trademark it.
All right,
yeah, go ahead, Bridgie.
Patrick, go ahead and tell our listeners where they can follow along with the next steps in your journey and keep up with all of the exciting things that you're doing.
Yeah, so definitely, I'm always trying to do more and more stuff on social media and Instagram, especially. My Instagram handle, I believe, is PK Pickleball or something. No, it's Patrick Kawka _pickleball, something like that. My wife
I
really
got you
is
covered. It's pickleball _Patrick Kawka.
That's the one. I was
and
close.
We'll tag you.
Yeah, that's
Thank you. Tag it. But I'm trying to do. I used to do a lot more little instructional videos. I'm going to get back to that here soon. And just doing a lot of stuff on there. That's where you'll see kind of the most of my updates. I also have a TikTok with some funny videos on there as well. But yeah, I guess the goals moving forward, I think, might start either doing more videos on Instagram and TikTok as well, relating to pickleball and just the travel side of things. So like I said, we're looking at getting an RV, and we might start putting out some content of kind of what it's like to be a full-time pro, traveling all over the country, in an RV and what the life's like. So that's something I'd be looking out for coming soon. We're going to start doing that as soon as we, can get some money together to get this RV, and then we'll be on the road full time and hopefully get to show some people what it's like. So,
well, we just got to sell some more noodles. That's all. Then we got to get you that.
Yeah.
Noodle, right.
Right. Exactly. The problem is I eat all the noodles before we sell them. So
that is a problem. That is a problem. Well, on that, we want to wish you the best of luck. Get that knee healed and get back on tour, winning more medals. And good luck to you.
Yeah, cheers.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much. Cheers.
Thank you so much.
I'm lucky enough. No, thanks for having me. And I've been putting a lot of time into fixing the knee, and I'm finally pretty much back to 100% here. I'm at like 98%. So I'm ready to get back playing. I'll be out in Kansas here in a couple weeks playing mixed with Kate Fahey. Should be a good time. So I'm excited to get back on the court finally.
I know you're itching to get back there and get to your winning ways. So go do it.
Thanks, guys. Thanks so much for having me. This was a blast.
You got it. And again, thank you for coming on the show. And for all of you listening, thank you for joining Bridgie and I on Third Shot Podcast. We will continue to have fantastic guests like Patrick in future episodes. Again, go check out his Instagram and you'll see a video of him picking on his wife on the pickleball court. It's hilarious. You'll have to check that out. It's at pickleball _Patrick Kawka. And then you can support this show while you're there. Support this show by subscribing to our show, Third Shot Podcast, on YouTube. Like us, give us 5 stars, all that good stuff. You've been fantastic. And we will continue to share our enjoyment for the game. And we want to continue growing this beautiful community together. So on that, see you next time on Third Shot Podcast.